Hello everyone, happy Tuesday and happy September. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am super excited to share with you these 3 fun projects made with the beautiful autumn bundle from the Stampin' Up! August-December mini catalog. Now, this bundle is all about fall. So I'm going to show you, first of all, where you'll find it in the catalog. It's on page 44 and 45. It's actually part of the Gilded Autumn suite, which includes some gorgeous DSP, some of which I'm going to use today, some adorable little acorn trinkets, some brushed metallic cardstock, and some beautiful ribbon. But my focus today is on the beautiful autumn bundle, which is a stamp set and 3 punches. Now let me show you what that actually looks like. Now when I first saw this in the catalog, I thought, let me get these out of the way for a second. I thought these punches were just little itty bitty ones, but they're not. They're actually quite large. They are our small, the small size punch. They're not an itty bitty one. And you get all 3 of these in the bundle. So there's a maple leaf, an acorn, and an oak leaf. And now, of course, all of the punch shapes coordinate with stamps in the beautiful autumn stamp set. Now, this is a lovely stamp set, has some wonderful autumn imagery and beautiful sentiments in wonderful fonts. And I should also mention that these punches coordinate with several of the patterns in the designer series paper as well. And we're actually going to see that in one of the cards that we're going to make. So it is an awesome, awesome bundle. You are going to love it, and I'm going to show you why. So I'm going to just set these things aside for a minute because I'm going to need the punches in a few minutes, and we're going to get right to it. Now, before we get started, let me just see who is joining me so I know that I'm not talking to myself. I hope somebody's out there. It's been quite the day today as we started back to school. No kids yet, but yeah, it's crazy, but we won't talk about that. We're here to talk about stamping. So we're going to start with this card, and you're going to see just how beautifully the images in the DSP coordinate with the punches. Now let's just see who is here. We've got Heather, and we've got Debbie, and Louise, and Sue, and Gail. Hello ladies, I hope you guys are having a good day and a good week, and your September is off to a great start. Okay, so we're going to start with this one, and this one really is all about the beautiful designer series paper and some of those laser cut forever gold specialty sheets. Now those sheets are fantastic, and a lot of the elements actually from the Forever Greenery suite work so well with this Gilded Autumn suite. So I'm going to set this over here, and we are going to start by building our wreath. So to begin with, I have a piece of that beautiful designer series paper. It's specialty paper, so one side of the paper has the gold foiling, the other has just lovely autumn imagery. But we're going to start with this piece. It's 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Okay, and then here I have one of the wreaths from the laser cut gold foil. Now, these are from the annual catalog. And that, I'm not actually going to glue that down. I'm just going to kind of set it there, centered on my piece of DSP. Okay. Next, I'm going to take some of these shapes that I have punched from the designer series paper. So I've got several maple leaves and I've got several oak leaves. Okay. And the sheets of DSP there's tons of them that have lots and lots of these images that you can punch out with the punches. So I'm going to start, and I'm actually going to be adhering both the wreath and my little leaves at the same time. So I'm just going to kind of tuck that in, and I'm going to do my oak leaves first. I'm going to go all the way around my wreath. So I'm just pressing each oak leaf into a glue dot, and then I'm kind of tucking it between the leaves of the wreath and securing it. And that's actually securing the wreath and the leaves at the same time. So I didn't need to glue the 2 separately. So let's add another one in here. So again, I'm just gonna kind of tuck that in there like that. And believe it or not, this is actually quite secure. The wreath is not going anywhere, thanks to these glue dots that I'm using to hold my leaves on. So sometimes you get lucky this way, and you don't have to use a whole lot of adhesive. We'll do one more oak leaf, and then we're going to switch to maple leaves. Hi Deb, how are you? Hope things are good in Calgary. we're just going to tuck this guy in there. Okay, so there are my oak leaves. Then I'm going to come back with some maple leaves. Now on the Designer Series paper, there are several different colors of each of these leaves. The color scheme in this paper is Mint Macaron and Cajun Craze, Crumb Cake, Early Espresso. I think that's it. And then of course the foiling. But really, really beautiful paper. And it's an extra bonus that all of these little shapes can be punched with the punch, or the punches, right? There are 3 punches. So I'm just gonna add a couple more, maybe one more maple leaf to tuck in here. And then we're gonna work on our sentiment. Okay, so that's not going anywhere. So that wreath is secured along with my leaves. Now, what I am going to do, you see how I've got some nice dimension going on my sample? So to do that, I actually use some mini dimensionals, and I actually tuck them in underneath each maple leaf. So I'm taking the backing off my dimensional, and then I'm going to tuck it in underneath, and it's going to pop my leaf. Okay, and so I'm going to do that for each one of the maple leaves, and that's going to give me some really nice dimension and fullness to my wreath. So I'm just going to go ahead and add those underneath each little leaf. This is like the easiest card. The only stamping on this card is the sentiments. Okay, all of the work is done with the DSP. Gotta like cards like that. One more, we'll tuck it right in here, right underneath. There we go. Okay, so you can see how that has given me some nice dimension. I'll hold it up sideways so you can see on my maple leaves. All right. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and glue that onto our card base. Our card base is Mint Macaron cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So we'll go ahead and fold that in half. And then we're going to glue our card front onto the base. So we'll add just a little bit of adhesive. Thanks, Louise. Yeah, it just adds some nice fullness to the wreath, so it's not quite as flat. I like to play with dimensionals. Well, dimensionals do give us dimension, hence their name, but sometimes it just, you can get some really cool effects. All right, so to stamp our sentiment, I have a 1/2 inch wide strip of Very Vanilla cardstock. This is probably, I don't know, 4 1/4 inches. Just some scrap. And I'm going to take my Cajun Craze ink and this Have a Beautiful Day sentiment. So we're going to ink that up. And we're going to stamp that centered on our little strip. Okay. Then I'm actually going to use my tailored tag punch to punch my banner ends, because this is actually a teensy bit wider than a 1/2 inch, and it will not fit in my pick a banner punch. So I'm going to punch this using my little tailored tag trick. And I'm going to leave a little extra space on the left end, so I have room to add my little leaves and acorns to my sentiment strip. Okay. Now, before I add anything or attach this to my card, I'm going to just do a little bit of burnishing with my bone folder. So I'm going to start by burnishing in the middle and just curving it this way. Okay. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to burnish each end. Okay. And what you end up with is sort of a U-shaped banner. Okay, and that's again going to give some nice dimension. Now, in order to keep this from getting smushed, we're going to add double dimensionals under that center part that we curved. So we'll just stack one on top of the other, and then we're just going to do a single dimensional on either end. So we're going to go ahead and pop this on, and then we're going to decorate it with some additional leaves. So again, our goal is to get it relatively straight, and we can pop that on there, and that gives us just really nice dimension on our banner. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to take and add a couple more leaves. I'm going to add, I think, just the 3 oak leaves. I'm going to skip that extra maple leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and go 1 and another one here. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and adhere one of my little acorns. I'm just doing all of these with glue dots. And then this last little acorn, I'm actually going to glue an oak leaf to the acorn first. I'm going to kind of tuck it in behind like that, and then I'm going to use a mini dimensional to pop it up. Just again to give it a little bit of interest. So we'll pop this guy right on here like that. Okay, and then our last touch, we've got an extra maple leaf, that's okay. Our last, well, second last touch is to add some beautiful gold cording. Now this is actually from the Forever Greenery suite in the annual catalog. It's really, really soft cording. Now it is the stuff that frays, so you have to be careful. And I'm going to make a double bow. So I'm basically just folding it over on itself to give myself a double thickness. And we're gonna make a loop. Okay, and again, this is my twine bow, so we're not making 2 loops, we're just making 1. Holding it in my right hand, I'm going to take my left hand, wrap it around, and bring it through. Okay, and that is going to give me a nice, manageable size knot, so I don't have a big bulky knot with this fine twine. And I'm going to play around with my loops. Whenever you're doing a double bow, you want one loop to be slightly larger than the other. And that just adds interest and emphasizes the fact that it's a double bow. So we'll get rid of the excess ribbon, or twine rather. And I'm going to just roll a glue dot into a little tube, press the knot of my bow. Oh, it stuck to my thumb, even better. And then we're just going to press that onto our little acorns there. Okay, all right, the last touch is to add some bling. You can see on my sample that I added some rhinestone berries to my wreath. So we are going to use some champagne rhinestones. The warm, sort of warm gold of these works really, really well with the DSP. I wouldn't want to use anything really, really yellow because I tried it actually. I used some of the holiday rhinestones and really did not like the look. It was too yellow. So I went back to these, and they are just the right shade to work with the metallics in the DSP. So I'm just going to add a few little rhinestone berries to my wreath, and that's it. So simple, right? Like no stamping except a sentiment. Using the beautiful images from the DSP and that awesome gold laser cut paper. Now on the inside of this, I added a couple more punched images and a piece of vanilla cardstock to write on. Okay, so that's card number 1. So simple. Sometimes simple is better, right? All right, let's get this out of the way. I'm gonna get rid of our twine. And we're going to pull in card number 2. Card number 2 is this one. I posted this earlier today. I couldn't resist bringing in my awesome Plaid Tidings DSP. I absolutely love this paper, and I love this particular pattern. I love the browns in it. So we are going to first do a little bit of stamping on our rectangle here. So this is cut from the Gilded Autumn DSP. Okay, I used the largest scallop rectangle from the Stitch So Sweetly dies. Okay, it's that awesome crumb cake spatter. Love that pattern. And we're gonna do a little bit of stamping on the background, and then we're gonna stamp some and punch out some shapes, so you'll see the punches in action. So to start, oh, there it is. I'm going to stamp some of the sort of wheat images, sort of up the side and along the bottom. So I'm using Bumblebee ink here. I'm going to ink this up as I just put my finger on it. And I'm going to stamp this a couple of times. So I want to do one that's up a little bit higher, and then one that's a little bit lower, and then one more. Okay. And then I'm going to do a couple along the bottom. And this one will be a little bit shorter, like that. Okay, super simple. We'll keep this out because we're going to need it later. And then we're going to bring in some crumb cake ink. Oh, this DSP is currently on back order. Well, that's unfortunate. I have an extra pack if anybody needs some. I actually accidentally ordered one more than I needed. So I am inking up this sort of, this reminds me of milkweed pods, this image. It just does. And I'm inking it in Crumb Cake ink. And I'm going to stamp it a couple of times just on that panel. I'm not worried about this because it's going to get hidden. All right. Okay. So now we are going to adhere our gold hoop. Now let me just dump all these bits out because I got lots of bits and bobs in here. Come on. There we go. All right. So we are going to adhere our gold hoop just in that bottom right corner of our DSP rectangle. Okay, so it's going to kind of go there. Now when you're adhering these hoops, what I do is, again, I roll a glue dot into just a little bit of a tube. I press the hoop into it and it just picks it up. Okay, and then I'm going to do another one. Now this is all on the area that's going to go in the bottom corner, so these glue dots are going to get hidden. Okay, so can you see my glue dots there? I'm going to kind of tuck them down in that bottom corner, and it's going to get covered up with all the good stuff that I'm going to add. Okay, I'm not really worrying about this because when I add my sentiment, it's going to kind of pin that into place. Okay. All right, so first thing I'm going to add is a couple more of these laser cut gold pieces. That I love that laser cut gold paper. It is so versatile, and it works so perfectly with this suite and for fall, right? I mean, gold is just a natural fit for fall. So I'm just adding a couple of glue dots. I'm going to adhere my little sprig here, just kind of up the side. And then I have another sort of open leaf image. I'm just going to add one glue dot there because it's going to kind of tuck down here and then get hidden once I add all my other little bits. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do some stamping. I have a little scrap of vanilla cardstock here, and we are going to stamp some maple leaves and some acorns. Now I need my crumb cake or my Cajun Craze ink. So we're going to start with our maple leaves. So I'm going to stamp the outline of the maple leaf. I'm actually going to do 3 of them. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so they're going to get stamped full strength. Then I'm going to take this solid leaf image and I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to center that, line it up, and fill in my leaf. Okay, so each one of the line art images in this stamp set also has a solid image that coordinates with it, which means you can either color them, which is always a good thing, right? Coloring is always relaxing. But if you're not in the mood for coloring, you can stamp them and color them with the solid image stamp. Okay, all right, so there's our crumb cake. We are going to do the same thing with the bumblebee. Now I just have to quick clean my stamp. Actually, maybe I can just stamp it off. I think we'll be okay if I just stamp it off. So again, we're going to stamp 1, 2, 3 maple leaves, and we're going to ink it up and again stamp off and fill in. So 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so there are our very fall looking leaves. And then to do our acorns, similar thing, we are going to ink up the line art image of the acorn with early espresso. So we'll go 1, we're only going to need 2 of these guys. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with some crumb cake to do the solid image. So I'm going to start with sort of the bottom of the acorn. I'm just going to take off that little guy for now. This one I'm going to ink off and stamp off and then fill in the bottom of the acorn. Just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to swap these out and I'm going to grab the little top of my acorn, and this time I'm going to ink but stamp full strength, and that'll give me the 2-tone acorn. There we go. Aren't they cute? Oh, they're so cute. I love these images. Hi, Diane. How are you? All right, so let's get these out of the way. And we are going to pull in our maple leaf and our acorn punches. And it's just a matter of lining up those stamped images in the punch and popping them out. So quick and easy. I'll just get these all punched out. And we'll be good to go. So I am looking for anyone who is in the healthcare sector. I need some tips on how to keep my glasses from fogging up while wearing a face mask and face shield in an unair conditioned classroom for 8 hours a day. So if anybody has any tips, send them my way. I will take any and all pieces of advice. I'm willing to try anything because I literally was in my classroom for 10 minutes this morning and it was completely fogged. So good thing I didn't have any kids yet because they're going to be able to do whatever the heck they want because their teacher isn't going to be able to see. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add a couple of these little guys. I'm actually going to use some liquid glue just because it makes it easier to slide them into place. My liquid glue wants to cooperate today. Didn't want to come and get into my hand there. So I'm going to just tuck one here. And you'll notice they're kind of sticking out a little bit. That's because I'm going to layer. Okay, and I want to make sure that I see them once I add the other layers. So I'm adding a bumblebee and a Cajun craze. Just like that. Okay, and then we are going to go ahead and layer on some additional colors. So this one, I'm going to add a mini dimensional. Oh, I'm almost out of mini dimensionals here. We're going to pop one onto the back. And that's just going to tuck right in there like that. And another one, let's do a red one. We'll add another guy in here. Yeah, Julie, I actually do have a call into my optometrist. I'm waiting to hear back from them because I have progressive lenses and they are coated. So I want to make sure that whatever I'm using is going to not damage my $600 lenses. So I am waiting to hear back from my optometrist and very much hoping they have good news for me because honestly, it's not going to go well if I have to work with fogged up lenses the whole time. So I am simply adding dimensionals to the back of all these shapes, and I'm just kind of building my images, and then these guys are going to just kind of tuck on there like that. And I am going to add a couple of mini dimensionals, and I'm actually going to put them on my rectangle here, just so that I make sure that I get them where I want them. Okay, so those are going to go right there, and then that's just going to sit right on top like that. Okay, all right. Yeah, Deb, if you have any thoughts, my issue is that it is very warm in my classroom, like very warm, and we don't have air. And so between me sweating and the breath, or the moisture from my breath and the mask and the face shield, is just a gong show. Total gong show. All right, so we are ready to put this onto the front of our card. So I'm going to be a little bit strategic when I add my dimensionals, and I'm not going to put them too close to the edge. That is so that I can tuck my little leaves in, my little wooden leaves, after I get it onto my background panel. Now, this piece of Plaid Tidings DSP is cut to 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this so that it is centered, or as centered as I can get it, and hopefully straight, just like that. Okay. And then I have 3 of these wooden leaf embellishments. So I'm going to tuck one of them just up there, and I find, again, the easiest way to do that is to just add a little bit of glue. Regular soap or shampoo. Does it keep them from fogging, Heather? My issue, like, I keep my lenses really clean. I clean them every morning before I walk out the door. But the issue that I'm having is with the fogging. Yeah, bridge of the tape over the bridge of the nose, Sue. That is something I am going to try. I had read that from a couple people. I am going to try that and see if that helps. I'm finding even like the warm air that's escaping around the sides of my mask is causing an issue because of the shield. So again, like I'm open to trying anything. I have another day, full day at school on Thursday, before we have any kids next week. So I am going to experiment as much as I can to try to come up with a solution, because it is not going to go well if I have to be constantly, well, I can't be constantly taking off my glasses because of the face shield. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Anywho, there are my little wooden leaf elements. So I just adhered those with a little bit of liquid glue and sort of slid them into place. And now we're ready to go ahead and adhere that to our card base. So my card base here is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. It's early espresso cardstock. It's scored in the middle at 5.5 inches. Debbie, I don't know when I'm teaching yet. None of us have timetables. The students don't have timetables. They've had to restaff and re-timetable the entire board because they had over 3,000 students choose for full distance learning, and they have to pull teachers from each school to teach those kids. So our administrators are working, they worked all weekend to try to come up with a new plan. Once they have a timetable, then they have to try the cohorts and see how that works. So we've been told that we'll be lucky if we have a timetable by Friday. So I'm hoping I'm teaching music. It will not be instrumental. We're not allowed to have instruments at school. So I don't know. Anywho, let's talk about stamping. Happy things. So here I have a piece of very vanilla cardstock that I've die cut, again, using those Stitch So Sweetly dies. So same die set that cuts the scalloped rectangle, cuts this cute little label. I've got some early espresso ink and this lovely My Heart is Grateful for You image, or sentiment image rather. And I'm going to ink that up in the early espresso and then just stamp that. That does not look like it's fully inked. Let's just make sure we are fully inked. There we go. And we're going to stamp that just centered on the label. Okay. And then we're going to add just a couple of those stamped images just in the background on the label. I always like to sort of tie in the label with the rest of my design. So I'm going to take a bit of crumb cake ink and this sort of leaf stamp that reminds me of milkweeds, and stamp that, and it just kind of disappears in behind the sentiment. And then I'm going to bring in a little bit of bumblebee and my little wheat sheaf here, and we'll just add just a couple of those, just sort of peeking on at the bottom there. Okay, and then that is going to go onto the front of our card. We're going to pop it up with some dimensionals, and again, we're going to make sure that we are overlapping that little hoop just to hold it in place. I seriously need to restock my dimensional supply here. We'll put this guy at the top. I know Louise is laughing at me because she knows that I'm a dimensional addict. Actually, most of you know I'm a dimensional addict, right? Thanks, Krista. Glad you like it. All right, so we're going to pop this on, hopefully straight. And again, just overlapping that little gold hoop there to make sure it stays put. And then our last touch is to take a little bit of this awesome braided linen trim. This is from the last year's holiday. It's still in the annual. Love this stuff. And we are going to tie a bow. So we are going to take and pinch our loops between our thumb and index finger. We're going to cross our left loop over the right and bring it around and through and make a cute little bow. I actually made this a little bit larger a bow than I normally would, just because I love this, this trim so much. And then I'm going to just take and press the knot into a glue dot and pop that on just like that. Okay, so simple, but really, really pretty fall card. Now let me just show you on the inside of this one. I stamped another leaf image from the stamp set and another sentiment just to finish it off on the inside. Okay, so that is that one done. We are rolling along here. Now I need to pull out a couple of ink shades here for our last card and make some room. So let's get this out of the way. We can put these guys away. And we're going to bring in our last card. Now, you guys seem to enjoy my ink blending last week, so I'm going to do a little bit more ink blending. I love these shades. I love playing with these shades for fall. And we are going to create, first of all, a blended ink background and then do a little bit of stamping on it. So we're just starting with a very vanilla stitched rectangle. Okay, so I cannot remember. I think this might be the 4th largest, maybe. Can't remember. And our ink palette, I should do this in order, is this. Okay, so we've got Bumblebee, Pumpkin Pie, Cinnamon Cider, and Cherry Cobbler. Now that is a gorgeous fall color palette. Okay, so we are going to start with the Bumblebee. And I know a couple of you tried this ink blending last week after I showed you. So I am so impressed that you guys tried it. And I want you to try it. It is so much fun to play with color. So I'm inking up my dauber. Again, I'm always starting off the edge of my cardstock. I'm working in a circular motion. And I'm coming on from the edge. Now, do you see how I went in a perfectly straight line there? See how I've got a line? I don't want that. So this time I'm going to come on from the corner and blend that out. So if you get that, the goal is when you're blending to try to be as random and even as you can. That is going to be really hard for me to get rid of, and it's because I was talking while I was doing this. It's been one of those days, you guys, honestly. I may be able to hide it with a darker shade. We shall see. So we're going to just blend that out. And again, when you're blending ink, you always want to work from light to dark. Okay, so I'm laying down, I'm covering the entire piece with my lightest shade, which is the Bumblebee. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with my next darker shade. Okay, that doesn't look very even, but that's okay. It's going to look better in a minute. All right, so next we're going to come in with the Pumpkin Pie. So we'll grab our Pumpkin Pie. Your ink blending is known as plopping. Diane, you crack me up, honestly. Hi, Martine, how are you? Okay, so I'm coming in with my Pumpkin Pie. I'm actually going to flip this around. No, I'm not. I'm going to do it this way. And start at the bottom and come on. And I want to go about 2/3 of the way up with the Pumpkin Pie. So this is a little bit different than last week's card, because last week we were kind of blending out from one corner. This time we're blending sort of from the bottom upwards. So again, I need some more ink in my Pumpkin Pie pad. It's getting a little on the dry side. So we're going to pull this in, and look at, I'm starting to blend out that nasty line that we had there. See, we can fix anything, you guys. Even a boo-boo. A boo-boo with ink. All right, so there we go. Okay. And then we're going to come in with our next darkest shade and bring in the Cinnamon Cider. I am going to need a glass of wine, Louise, tonight. I might even need 2 or 3. It has been a crazy ride. Yeah, we're not going to talk about it. All right, so we are going to continue to blend. So you're going to see I'm not going to come nearly as far up with the Cinnamon Cider, and I love the way Cinnamon Cider and Pumpkin Pie blend together. They are just gorgeous together. Okay. And I'm actually going to bring a little bit of the cinnamon in around the top as well. I'm going to kind of go all the way around just to darken down that top edge a little bit. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I could just sit and play with ink like this all day. All right, last shade, and we didn't use this shade last week. The last shade is some Cherry Cobbler. Now we're going to be really, really sparing with the Cherry Cobbler. We're going to come on from the bottom, and this is just going to add a little bit of fire here. Just adds a little bit of intensity and a little bit more of an orangey red than what we had last week. Oops, got a dimensional backing in there that we don't want. All right, so there is my Cherry Cobbler. I'm going to add just a hint more along that bottom edge. Isn't that pretty? Look at how they blend together. So, so pretty. All right. Oh, Debbie, I'm not looking for sympathy. I am just looking to be safe and to make sure that, you know, my kids are safe and I am safe and yeah, that we get through this year. Who knows what's going to happen? All right. So now, again, last important step when we're blending ink is to pull in the lightest color again and go back over and blend everything out. Okay. This is a really, really important step. You don't want to forget this, because that is what is going to pull all of those colors together. And you see how my little oopsie there is, it's totally disappeared. Look at that. Oh, so pretty. All right, all the hard work is done. Now we're gonna do a little bit of stamping. So I'm going to bring in my sort of milkweed looking image and my early espresso ink. So we're gonna ink that up and we're gonna stamp this a few times across this. And I just love the way the early espresso just pops against that blended background. So, so pretty. Now, while I have this color out, I'm also going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. My sentiment says, life is better with you. And I would agree. Life is better with all of you. So we are going to ink that up and center it. Not center it. Get it straight. That's what I was trying to say, in that upper right corner. And then I'm going to come in with my sort of wheat sheaf image and a little bit of crumb cake ink. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to use crumb cake. I'm going to use some cinnamon cider. I want it to be a little bit more intense. The crumb cake is quite light. We're going to change up the original design a little bit. Hope you guys don't mind. So I've got my little wheat sheaf. And again, I'm just going to add one. Oh yeah. The cinnamon cider is so much better. I'm going to add one, whoops, and two there. And we'll just do one here and one here. And I'm going to add one little guy over here just to fill that in. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love it. So, so love it. All right. Now, our last touch before we adhere this and put the rest of our card together is to add a little bit of gold speckle. So you guys probably can't see, I don't know if that shows up at all on the video, but I did some champagne, what is it called? Champagne Mist shimmer paint across the front of this. So I'm just going to take my aqua painter and pick up some of that paint, and I am just going to flick that right across the front of my card. And I'm going to get some larger speckles and then some really fine ones, and the whole thing just sort of glows. It's just so, so pretty. I wish you guys could see it easily on the video. It does not show up well. But that is that. Yep, cinnamon cider is better call, Heather. Thank you for validating my opinion. I appreciate it. All right, so to finish off this card, the other elements include a mat for this rectangle. So this is cut to 4 1/8 by 2 3/4. So 4 1/8 by 2 3/4. This is going to get glued onto here, but I'm going to wait just a minute to let that shimmer paint dry. Okay. In the meantime, we are going to take our crumb cake background. So this is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. I've embossed it along the bottom edge with the My Meadow embossing folders. Now these are the narrow folders. It comes in a set of 2, I think, from the annual catalog. And I just love this sort of falling leaves for fall cards. So I've already gone ahead and embossed that. We have our early espresso card base. It's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So we'll fold that in half along our score line. And then we're going to take a little bit of this beautiful braided linen trim. And we're going to put that across the front of our card, kind of, I don't know, 1.5 inches up from the bottom edge. So I'm just pressing each end of the trim into a glue dot and adhering that to the back side of my emboss panel. Okay, and then that is ready to go onto the front of my card. So we're going to add a little bit of adhesive. And we're going to pop this on. Just like that. Okay, And then this should be dry enough for us to adhere to our mat. So we'll add a little bit. Yep, I agree, Heather. I agree 100%. Yep, the cinnamon cider is 100% better. And yeah, you're right. It does balance the intensity of the milkweed. All right, so there we go. We'll just get that nicely centered. Now this is going to go on with some dimensionals. I'm going to have to trim some of my edges to make it happen, but I think we'll have enough. So we'll get rid of this last little corner bit, and I want to make sure that I'm putting my dimensionals. I've got to remember that I'm going to have the twine going across here, so I don't want to have any dimensionals where the twine is going to go, okay, because that will cause it to not lie flat. So what I like to do is just put some right along that bottom edge, and then my twine can kind of run right through there. So we'll get rid of our backings, and we're going to pop this onto the front of our card, centered as much as possible. So we'll pop that on there, and hopefully it is relatively straight. I don't think my trim is all that straight. Okay, and then we're going to add another bow. Where did I put it? There it is. So you guys are all bow tying experts now, right? How many lessons have you had, honestly? How much practicing have you done? It is fun blending ink colors, Heather. I could not agree more. It's really fun. Okay, so we are going to tie our bow, and I'm going to keep my loops fairly large again, just because, well, because I can. So we'll trim off the end, and we're going to add one of these adorable little acorn trinkets. I love these little guys. So to glue these are quite weighty, but they will stay with just a single glue dot. So what I'm going to do is press the side of the acorn into a glue dot, and I'm going to set this on, or press it onto my card with the loop lying kind of against where I want my bow to go. Okay, so can you see how I've just kind of pressed it on there? And then I'm just going to take and press the knot of my bow into a glue dot, and then just stick it right to that little loop. And it's going to look like it's tied on there, but it's not. It's the cheater way. All right. Okay, let's get all of this stuff out of the way. And again, I'll show you what I did on the inside. I just kept it really simple. I stamped some of those milkweed pods just on a piece of vanilla cardstock, just to keep it really simple. This could be any occasion card, right? And it's always good to have some of those in our stash. All right, let's get rid of this messy grid paper. Let's flip it over for you and bring back all three projects so you can see them all together one last time. Now, I have good news for you. I am going to be live this Friday night. We're going to do some simple stamping with this awesome bundle. So I will be live on Friday evening at 7:30 Eastern Time, and it may be my last Friday live for a while. We shall see how things go. If today was any indication, you probably aren't going to want to hear from me on Friday nights because I won't make any sense. So let's just leave it at that. So that is it for today, everybody. Again, I will see you on Friday at 7:30 Eastern Time. In the meantime, have a fantastic week. And if I don't see you Friday, I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Thanks. Bye for now.